Give me 1 second. It's just loading and we will get started. Give me 1 second. Perfect. Okay. All right, everyone's here. Will have joined in. Great. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Rovina Nimbalkar, and I'm the Executive Director at NAMI Santa Clara County. And before we begin tonight's program, I just want to go over the updates here at NAMI Santa Clara County. Our helpline is up and running from 10 a.m. to 6 Friday by phone and email, as well as walk-in hours between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And over the phone, it's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. After our family support is available on evening and weekends. For our support groups, they're all listed on our website and they're offered on Zoom as well as in person. So please do check our website. And if you're not aware of our website, it's namisantaclara.org. Education classes such as family to family, familiar to familiar, persona to persona, peer to peer, provider education. You can contact a helpline number 408-453-0400 and select option 1 to get further details and also put your name in the interest list. And they can help you when the schedule is and when they're taking place. The NAMI basics as well as NAMI Homefront classes are on demand and on our website, so you can take it at your own pace. The next FaithNet MH101 is going to be on March 24th, and this is going to be a virtual MH101. For an in-person, we're going to have that in May, which is May 21st. So again, reach out to our helpline or check it out on our website. We have all the information there. Our community peer program continues our matches by hospitals as well as self-referrals. So, you can fill up the form if you're interested in the program. It's on our website again. Just wanted to make a quick announcement. I know we wrapped up the 2025 walk, which was a huge success. We have been in the top 10 walks in the country, and we're part of the Grande teams as well. So kudos to all of you for participating and help us with the fundraising. But I also want to announce that our next year's walk dates have been announced and our walk website has been launched. So NAMI Walk Silicon Valley for 2026 is going to be on Saturday, October 3rd. At History Park, and we just launched our website back again just yesterday. The website is namiwalks.org/Silicon Valley. Okay, moving on. One thing I just want to make an announcement quickly about is that a lot of you do come to our annual picnic. Our annual picnic this year is going to be on Saturday, June 6th, and we're going to give more information out very soon by our emails on Constant Contact. The next thing, I just want to do an announcement announce the slate of NAMI Santa Clara County's board officers for 2026-2027. The proposed slate is Uday Kapoor for president, Beverly Lozoff for vice president outreach, Juan Perez for vice president Spanish outreach, Morit Milo, vice president communication and media, Dolly Sandoval, vice president legislation, Scott Welton, Treasurer, and Peter Newman, Secretary. Votings will be conducted on our website. We will be sending a detailed voting instruction via Constant Contact, so please keep an eye out for that email. We hope that you will take a few minutes to participate in the vote. Now, moving on, each year, NAMI Santa Clara County gives out a Community Merit Award to a mental health champion in our community. And to make the announcement of this year's award recipient, I would like to invite Uday Kapoor, President of the Board of NAMI Santa Clara County. Over to you, Uday.
Thank you, Ravina. It's such a great pleasure to welcome and honor Senator Dave Cortese with NAMI Santa Clara County's 2025 Community Merit Award. Congratulations, Dave. It is so special as we also celebrate our 50th anniversary as one of the oldest affiliates in the country. It has been my privilege to have known and engaged with Dave for many years. Dave grew up in San Jose as part of a family that has been active in civic, cultural, and business activities for generations. During his nearly 3 decades in public service, Dave has brought the community together to address and reduce homelessness, combat climate change, expand public transit options, reform Santa Clara County's jail custody operations, and fight for the right of immigrants, among many other things. Senator Dave Cortese was elected in November of 2020 to represent State Senate District 15, which encompasses much of Santa Clara County in the heart of Silicon Valley. Along with his accomplished career as an attorney and business owner, Dave previously served on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors for over a decade, with 4 years as board president, on the San Jose City Council for 8 years, including 2 years as vice mayor, and as a trustee for the East Side Union High School District for 8 years. Like its predecessor, Dave, Senator Jim Bell, who is here also, we're honored to have him here. We want to recognize Senator Cortese for his contribution to mental health. The citation on the award plaque reads, 2025 Community Merit Award given to Senator Dave Cortese in recognition of exceptional leadership, vision, and advocacy for mental health awareness, access, and support services in Santa Clara County. Congratulations again, Dave. And with this, I would like to have Senator Jim Bell say a few words.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to have Dave, be honored today, and he's well deserved for this award, having been a champion both in Santa Clara County and in Sacramento and statewide on mental health issues. We are so happy to have Dave in Sacramento. We could have a lot of other people, but we got Dave, and we're so lucky to have him. Because of his knowledge, his ability, his ability to get things done. And when you're in Sacramento, you have to be a very good convincer. And Dave has done a great job convincing people to give a priority to mental health. You'll notice that when you see all the candidates running for governor talk about mental health. And it's good that Dave keeps raising the issue, especially when the budget's tough. There has to be people that stand up for mental health. So thank you, Dave. Thank you for all your work. It's well deserved. And congratulations. We're happy to give you this award. Thank you.
And with that, we would like to have Senator Cortese say a few words.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the award. It means a lot to me. It really does. I know we don't do this for awards, and former Senator Bell will be the first person to tell you that. Of course, he established kind of the mold for this. He established he's the role model for all legislators in our delegation, not just me, all current legislators, and of course the legislators that he was working with at the time when it comes to mental health issues and so many other health and human services issues. So thank you, Jim. Having you here, having you say those words also means a lot to me. Somebody who Senator Bell and I both know, whose name I won't mention, was a former legislator, has been retired for many years now, works in Sacramento after 25 years out of the legislature, probably 20 years of elected service before that, once told me when I thanked him for something, well, it's nice every once in a while that people remember what you did, And I always thought, and we don't actually get that much feedback. And it's not the thank you or the acknowledgement or whatever. Obviously, we did this, the work that we've been doing because we're trying to stand up for the clients. We're trying to stand up for our constituents. We're trying to bring attention to these issues that, continue to, frankly, to to put it in legislative terms, government terms, kind of dog us still to some degree. The interaction, between law enforcement and folks with behavioral health issues is still way, way far from perfect, right? It needs work, and it needs real work. And Senator Bell mentions the gubernatorial candidates, and I hope whoever gets elected actually gets that, understands that this is not an occasional kind of a topic where if we just do a bill every once in a while, things are going to be okay for the next 20 years. It's not that. And all of you at NAMI are, so compassionate, so understanding of that very idea that we can't go backwards. And the bill that we ran together, Senate Bill 1300, was really based on that premise. We cannot, as we're fighting for beds, we cannot have, willy-nilly, just sort of randomly, folks, especially on the private sector side, just decide unilaterally to shut beds down. It's one step forward, two steps back. And we're fighting too hard for those that we advocate for to let that happen. And, the bill, sometimes when you start off with these bills, and I was saying this to Sunshine Borelli, my chief of staff, who was also, as you know, Senator Bill's right-hand person for so many years, that we start off with some of these bills sometimes and say, oh, this is, there's no such thing as an easy bill, but this is a good bill. This is a bill people will support. And then you find out as you get through the process, this very, challenging at times and lengthy process, that, it's a lot more contentious than maybe you think. And maybe that's because it's more meaningful than you thought. But we would hope that that's the case. But I got to credit my staff, of course, on the bill itself, NAMI, for pushing hard, for fighting hard, for not giving in on some of the opposition arguments that came up. How important that is. Jim or I or any legislator will tell you, to have the sponsor be deeply rooted in values and not willing to be pushed back or pushed around on a bill like this or any of the other bills that will bring, that'll bring progress to the treatment, and as well as just society's perception of the community that's out there, struggling with what is, as we all know, a medical condition, but sometimes being treated as if they're criminals or if they're somehow stigmatized into some other category, other than health and human services and good quality health care. So many of us, unfortunately, have experienced that in our extended families, and it really drives it home. There was at one point on the Board of Supervisors before I left 5 years ago, time flies, but 5 years ago, we realized that a majority of the Board of Supervisors had direct family interaction with mental health conditions, and that were at times a big struggle to deal with the institutions that are out there. And again, that's good. I never looked at that as, oh my God, is, our whole board somehow struggling with their own families. The way I looked at it was, thank God we have this lived experience on this board where people really understand the consequences of inaction and the consequences of systems that are broken and the consequences of profiteers and private sector folks that, are interested in their shareholders and not really interested in, in their own bottom line and not really interested in the people that we're trying to serve here. So thank you all so much. Patty, my wife, Patty, sends her regards as well. I know she's participated in programs at NAMI and learned a lot and shares a lot with me. I wish I had more time to participate in programs myself. Senator Bell told me when I succeeded him, he said, he always calls me David because we go back so far. And that's what they called me when I was at Bellarmine. He went to that school before I did, but he said, David, this is a hard job. It's a hard job. And it's very rewarding, but it's a hard job. And I don't say that because of this award. I say that because what's hard about it is I wish I could connect with each and every one of you every week. You know, I wish I had the time to do that. But for this period that I'm here in Sacramento, I'll do this good work and then look forward to the day when I come back and be a volunteer or help you directly with the things you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you. And thank you for being accessible. Thank you so much.
Of
Thank you.
course.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And good night to all of you.
Okay.
Good night. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Back to Ravina.
Okay, so to begin with our presentation tonight, and to introduce our speaker for tonight, I am going to invite Maureen Milo, Vice President of the Board, to introduce our speaker for tonight.
Thank you, Ravina. It's really appropriate. Angela, well, I'm going to introduce you, but what an appropriate way to start, right? With the award for Senator Cortese. And of course, we have Jim here, and he's been our champion for so many years. But tonight, good evening, everybody. Tonight, we have our speaker, Angela Lucero Perry, and Angela is the South Bay Employment Services Manager at Ability Path. It's a nonprofit that provides employment programs for people with disabilities. Angela has 25 years of experience working with people with disabilities. She oversees all South Bay programming that assists people with preparing for and returning to work. So prior to Ability Path in 2020, Angela worked with Services for Brain Injury as Director of Programs for 18 years. She also served at a variety of HR and recruitment roles before beginning her career in the nonprofit sector. Angela conducts ongoing research to outreach to businesses in the effort to help build a network of potential employers while maintaining relationships with California Department of Rehabilitation and San Andreas Regional Center. She is also a crisis interventionist team trainer for the San Jose Police Department. Today, Angela is going to talk about Ability Path and how it works with individuals who qualify for funding through the DOR and San Andreas Regional Center. This means that individuals have to be diagnosed with a disability and have a desire to work. Once the DOR finds them eligible, they can be referred to Ability Path for services. Well, I personally am very thrilled to have Angela here. I have my own story to tell how Ability Path has just done wonders for my son, but that'll come afterwards. I'm going to turn it over to Angela and let her talk about the services and the requirements and the process, and we'll just take it from there. Angela, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Marie. I'm like, oh, that Angela girl sounds pretty cool. So first I want to open up with access needs. I am home. I do have my grandchildren who don't always respect boundaries at work. So although I've told them to please let me do what I need to do, we may get interrupted by a 6-year-old. So thank you so much. Yes, I am with Ability Path and have been here for the last 5 years. While it's services for brain injury, I actually partnered with NAMI. I hadn't put that two together until just a few minutes ago. But I did partner with NAMI in some presentations, working with individuals with mental health. While with SBI, I found that I was working with a lot of brain injured individuals who were dual diagnosed with mental health, as well as other disabilities. So we opened up our services to assist. I do want to kind of preface this conversation with saying that as a whole, Ability Path works with the ID and DD population. They do not specialize in mental health. Because I have experience working with mental health, I have opened up those services to my department in the South Bay. Ability Path in general works with individuals in these populations with disability from infancy, in housing and independent living skills, with schools. And then we have our vocational programs where we work on getting them back to work. We have offices in the North Bay, and offices in the South Bay. So our office in the South Bay is on North First Street near the airport. We work with individuals from as young as 17 to, I think my oldest client was 72. Yeah. So as long as a person has a desire to work, then, and they're found eligible through either the regional center or DOR, I'll work with them. We have individuals who may want to work part-time, may want to work full-time. Many of the individuals that we serve are on Social Security, and so therefore they want to maintain those benefits. And we honor that by finding them a job that will allow them to make less than the SGA amount for the year. And that changes every first of the year. The programs that we offer are job development, and what that encompasses is looking for a job. So an individual can get referred to us through San Andreas or DOR and has to have the ability and the desire to work. It can't be mom's desire or dad's desire. It has to be their desire to work, because as we all know, when we're pushed to do something we do not want to do, we sabotage it and just make it not work. So they have to have the desire to work. We will work the gamut trying to figure out what it is that they want to do and what they can do within their abilities. So, somebody comes in and says, oh, I want to be a vet. Okay, well, that takes years of schooling and it takes internships and it takes all this stuff. Do you have this? No. All right, well, where do we start? Do you like animals? Obviously. So let's look at vet clinics and let's look at the SPCA and let's look at the pet stores and let's put you in this environment. So we really try to work within a person's desires and a realistic goal. We work on their resume. We work on their cover letter. And often I have them, the way I ask them for a cover letter is, tell me why you rock. Give me 3 or 4 sentences about why you're amazing and why you rock. And I use their words because when we redo that cover letter for them, I want them to have the flavor of the client that we are representing. So it's important that we get input from our individuals because we want it to be person-centered and we want it to be them who's speaking. So we help with the resume, the cover letter. We practice with them interviewing skills. We ask them to show up suited and booted. We want them to put their best foot forward when it comes to an interview. And some people don't understand what that means. So I want them to show up in their interview clothes. If they don't have them, we find resources to get them some. We have something called Job Club, where once a week, everybody who is in our employment program comes in and we work on how to request an accommodation, how to answer a question in an interview that perhaps you don't have the direct experience. What are those relatable skills? And once the individual is job ready and they're able to interview, we do assist them with the interview. So we will go with them on the interview. We help with the application process. And those application processes, if you all haven't looked for a job lately, is a bear. Those assessments can take an hour to an hour and a half. They ask questions like, do you get angry when a criminal gets off? Well, heck yeah, I get angry. But that's not the answer customer service wants to hear, right? So we help them get through those assessments. If during the interview they're unable to answer a question, we will rephrase it for them so that they're able to then answer that question in a meaningful way so that the employer can take those transferable skills. Prior to that interview, we will call the employer. If we know the personality of one of our clients, and I had a very quirky guy who had some particular quirks and just a personality that you had to be ready for him. And I told that to the employer and he's like, oh, that's amazing. That sounds just like me. And they partnered together for about 8 years. So, I think transparency is very, very important when you're looking for employment for someone. What I don't want to happen is to send someone to a setting where the employer's never worked with somebody with a disability and doesn't understand, and B, the client's not ready for it, because the worst that we want to do is set them up for failure. I find that people that come through our door have been set up for failure and face so many failures in life that I don't want the employment process to be one of them. So we try to be as thorough as we can through this process. So if the job is offered to them, then what we offer as an agency is job coaching. So now the person has the job, and we will request coaching services to follow along. So if they're related to San Andreas Regional Center, the follow along services will happen for the life of the job. If they come through DOR, they get 3 to 6 months of job coaching. And the way that that job coaching works is that we are on site with this client first few weeks 100% of the time, next few weeks 80 to 75, and then we dwindle down to about 30% and transfer them over to the regional center. So they have support. Those that are with DOR, we do the 3 to 6 months, set up as many natural supports within the organization that they're working for as possible, and then we close the case. What else can I tell you? We do not work with individuals who have felonies. It's in our criteria, the entrance criteria that that we need to have. And when it comes to people with mental health issues, they have to be stable. Like they have to be able to manage the criteria that any other employee at work without a reasonable accommodation would have. So, personality has to be such that, they can't be having meltdowns at work because that's just not acceptable work behavior, right? Medication needs to be managed. And oftentimes we'll tell an employer, we don't disclose what the disability is, but we give some warning signals. If you run into this, let us know. Let us know so that we can get in and intervene. Read anything else that I might have missed?
Well, one thing you brought up to me, Angela, which I thought was really important, was some of the changes in the rules in clerical qualifications. I think it's important the community understands that has shifted.
Yeah, so there's something now, and I've been doing this 25, 26 years, and I have not run into this in the time that I have been doing this work. So because there are so many budgetary constraints within the funding, we are now, not we, but the individuals who are sent to the Department of Rehab have this thing called OOS, and it's order of selection. And what that is that they are determining by disability how much, this is being recorded, huh? How much money are you going to cost me in terms of the DOR, like how much money is serving you going to cost? What is the significance of your disability? And what's the reality of us placing you? So there's level 1, which is, sorry, my reminder's telling me put the chickens away. Level 1 is the most significant disability. And again, remember, these are people who are supposed to work. So it's typically the ID and the DD community who is also related to San Andreas Regional Center. They are going to take number 1 priority. Number 2 priority outside of that is other people with disabilities. I'm not sure what the specifics are. And the third is going to be, unfortunately, probably, I'm thinking, and this is my personal opinion, this population. Right? People who are able to get through their day-to-day, things, their disability isn't so severe that it's always present. There is a third tier. So number 1 and number 2 are taking priority. Number 3 is the one that's coming in last. And I don't know how that is going to impact services for mental health. I don't know how it's going to impact services for physical disabilities. It just started February 1st. It's very new. I've not seen it in my career, and I don't like it.
So we won't know if somebody goes to the DOR and has a diagnosed disability. We do not know how that'll play out at this point in time then.
No. And I do know you can look up like OOS and what the criteria is. There's a lot of like criteria to go with it. I'm just not, it's very new. Literally, it just started 10 days ago. So I'm not very familiar with what the structure is. And honestly, like, how do you tell that? How can you tell what a person is going to need in terms of long-term care, or what they may have a diagnosed disability, but that doesn't define them as a person and what it's very frustrating to me overall.
Well, I guess the first thing you do is you have to try, right? So that's where you
Absolutely.
have to start, is to try.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil.
And hopefully you can work through the system. I think the biggest thing for us was we weren't aware of the service at first. So just for all of you out there, so my son was he was diagnosed with schizophrenia about 14 years ago. And like everybody in our families that have gone through this, I mean, it was challenging to get the treatment, to get the care that is needed and should be received. And then finally, when it does happen, and by some will of God or whatever, because it's certainly not the system that's helping, eventually that individual, we all hope, will become stable. So for me, in 2022, my son was at a point of stability where he actually wanted to look for a job. He had that desire that Angela is talking about. But I had no idea how to do this because I couldn't imagine him walking into a store and picking up a form to fill out, and I just knew it would be overwhelming. So it just by happenstance that when he was at the psychiatrist mentioned, why don't you reach out to Ability Path? And I said, okay. And he said, yeah, I have a few patients who have gotten over there and gotten jobs, and it's worked out. So I honestly had not heard of you guys. And so I went online and I looked, and I thought it was basically for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And on the site, you don't really see anything about mental health, providing any kind of work support for mental health services. But now that you've explained to me that you are the outlier in the group, I understand why that's not that prevalent. But when I picked up the phone to call, I just had the nicest person get on the phone, explain to me, yes, we do that kind of work. We work with people with serious mental illnesses if they are, receptive to looking for work. And but he also said to me at the time, but we can't help you until you go through the Department of Rehabilitation, because the referral has to come through us, through them, and they have to validate, verify, do whatever they do over there to acknowledge that yes, you're the person who's going through there has a disability. I don't know if it even honestly really works if you're not on SSI or SSDI unless you get some kind of a doctor validation, from that, which he needed. I remember he needed to proof from his doctor and all the other things. And he also, the individual over at Ability Path told me it would take time. So I thought, well, how long can this take? And he said, it'll take at least 6 weeks to get through the DOR. And I thought, holy smokes, that seems like a long time for to get validated. So now I'm wondering what'll happen with this new world that you're about to enter. But
We
it
have no idea.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it took us 6 weeks. And then at that point, I remember we were able to get to them once they received you all received the DOR acknowledgement. So so what happened at that point was he was signed up with a case manager, and the case manager at the time, Philip didn't exactly know what he wanted to do, but he thought, well, I could probably work in a grocery store. And so I remember the case manager at the time said, okay, let's see if we can get you a job over at a grocery store. And he did the calling around and he did the work to help him get the entree into the interview. And he walked into on his own. He walked into Safeway. He was dressed very nicely, and I remember him walking in the door that day and saying, "Mom, I got the job right on the spot." And I said, "Wow, that's fantastic!" And I was just so happy for him. And he felt he had some purpose in life. But about 3 months in, Safeway is very corporate. So they work with need, not with sympathy. And they said, okay, well, we need you to go from bagging to checking. And he did it at first and wasn't so bad. And then it got stressful, making sure he got the people through the line, making sure that there wasn't any glitches in the process and everything like that. And it reached the point where he could not do it. And so he just said, I have to quit. I can't do it. It's too stressful for me. And so, but I knew he still really wanted to work. So that's when I reached out to Angela and I explained our situation. And I said, doesn't want to give up. We just need to find a better solution. And we were given a different case manager who was more hands-on, which we did really not understand how hands-on he needed, how much hands-on work he needed. And so this amazing woman named Joanne came to our house, coached him, worked with him, did everything you said, how to build the resume, how to talk to the next interview he went on. They role played, they did everything, and then she took her time, and it was just a point where he was feeling more confident and ready to give it a try. And then Angela actually went out into our community. I happen to live in Campbell. She went out into our community and drove around looking for places that she thought might be a good fit for Philip. I was just in awe of this woman. And she came upon Nob Hill over in Campbell in the Kirkwood Plaza. She went in, she talked to them. She just felt this would be a good spot for him to try. And so he went over there on his own again, dressed very nicely, had the appointment set up, and he went in to talk to the manager, and it was really different. I can remember the manager, he came home and he got the job. He already knew how to do most of it. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's just a question of if you want it. And he came home and he said the first thing that the manager he said, well, what's your experience? He said, well, I worked at Safeway. And he said, okay, now you're going to come and work at a real grocery store because Safeway doesn't really put that much energy into the kind of thing, it's just corporate, it's big corporate. So he is now, in a place where they knew through Joanne that he needed maybe potential accommodations, but like you said, there was no disclosure. It was just that he was coming in with he might have extra needs. So what happened was the vibe was so family oriented. He was in there. He all of a sudden he felt like, wow, I think I found my home, except for one little glitch. The hours were all over the map. And for somebody who needs a solid routine day to day, it was getting difficult again. And Joanne came to the rescue. He called her, she talked to him, and then she went over to the store and said, can you give him the same hours all the time? Is that possible? Which is kind of hard to do because they're always working with all these different employees, and how do you give this one person these hours? But they did it. They gave him same hours all the time, 4 days a week, part-time. And that was the ticket. All of a sudden, he found his home. He just found his home. He found his way where he could make friends. He was social. The people there knew him. The customers started to know him. He was very comfortable going into the store, helping do things beyond just bag checking, and he grew. He grew from a job that he wanted and now that he loves, and he's been there for 5 years now. 5 years on this job. And there was a point where he had a little glitch last year, and the voices got too loud. He himself realized he had to step back a little bit, and he took a medical leave for 2 months. And everybody at the store was just very, very supportive and said, just when you're ready to come back, come back. We're here for you. I just feel like he landed in heaven because these people are so caring about him. And I just want to tell this to the folks that are watching out there, that he actually disclosed his illness to the people he works with, and they all knew it. And I was really surprised. And I said, because of the concerns that somebody will look at you as you are the illness when you are not the illness. And he said, I did that because if something happened, I did not want them to think I was on drugs. I wanted them to understand why. And I saw it also as another way. They saw a person that comes into work and is no different than anybody else in that store. He's doing his job, he's talking with people, he's communicating, and nobody would know the difference. So I think they were learning something too about what it means to have schizophrenia. And that does not mean that you are somebody who is not capable of working and being part of society. So I think people benefit across the line. I just want to mention, because I didn't bring it up, if anybody has any questions for Angela, please, either put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and Angela will be happy to answer them. So I just want to close by saying that I really, Ability Path for us changed everything for my son. gave him purpose in life, you know, and I wanted Angela to come and speak to the community because I didn't know about you guys, and I wanted other people to be aware that there are doors that can open for others who have family members who have a serious illness, but they want to do something with their life. And it's just a matter of finding that right fit, you know, in that puzzle and making sure that it works. It won't be for everybody, but for the ones who really want to try, you know, your service offers that. And it we're very, very lucky that you have this insight to say, well, let's spread our abilities and help people who have, you know, schizophrenia or have bipolar disorder or another kind of illness that disrupts their life, but at the same time they know how to compartmentalize it as needed. So I'm personally want to thank you, and you already know that Joanne is amazing.
I do. She's amazing. Thank you so much. I wanted to touch on 2 points that you brought out with your story for the accommodation and the schedule. So that's a request that we get often. And what we get is, I really don't want to work weekends. That's the time I spend with my friends. And my family and I like to go skiing to Vail. And I'm like, I really don't want to work on Mondays because I'm tired from the weekend and I got grandkids and I'm doing stuff. So like a desire does not equal an accommodation, right? So the need for your son, right, to be able to have a stable schedule so that he could learn tasks, so that it could be routine for him, that is an accommodation, right? And we will shoot for accommodations and fight for accommodate. You don't know how many accommodation letters and HR people I've had to deal with. The second point that I thought is really important is you talked about a leave, right? And so, you know, employers have to give you a leave, a medical leave when you need it. And especially with mental health, like I think it's really important for the client, and if they have family who's advocates and they see that a person is starting to get a little off kilter with the illness, I think it's important to shoot out a message to the support team, because prior to getting fired, before something escalates that we can't come back from, we can get in and say, hey, this is, you know, obviously we don't disclose unless we have permission to, but we can get in and say, we've got some up and coming issues. We're going to need to request a medical leave. We've gotten the union involved, blah, 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 blah. And this is how much time, and we'll come in with a doctor's note. We get in front of it before it's too late to get the job back. So that is another way that we work with, you know, managers and companies and corporate and all that kind of good stuff. You know, on those two specific things, we ask for accommodations often. And then I don't ask for leaves too often because, you know, we don't have a lot of mental health that we're dealing with. And those typically these individuals, especially if they go off medications or there's something going on with the medication and it has all these side effects, those are the ones that we tend to ask, you know, more for. But we are well versed in doing it. I did see
Yeah,
some questions pop up in the chat.
yeah, I see it too. The one thing I just want to add to that real quickly is the one thing about the medical leave is that the first thought is for the person to say, I want to quit, or I have to quit the job because I can't do it. But if you take the medical leave, you still have the job. You just are taking
Right.
time away to restabilize yourself, and then you can go back to what you're doing. So that is really, really critical, because for Philip, he didn't want to leave the job, but he didn't know how to do it. And so then he came, to his credit, he said, well, maybe I can take a medical leave. And I said, absolutely. And that's when you just need a doctor's note, because in this case, you guys had closed the case already on him. But the process is the same, right?
Yeah.
So either way. So yeah, I
And
see one question.
and just so you know, even if the case is closed, like if you reach out to me, if it's a phone call or a visit that I need to make, we're more than willing to do it. If it takes more than that, we can always get the case reopened for advocacy and additional coaching.
That's really good to know. Yeah.
So there was a question I saw.
Yeah, it is. It's the address in Redwood City that they're
That
asking.
is our corporate address on Twin Dolphin, I think it's Drive, but
Yeah.
the San Jose address is 2248 North First Street.
You want to put that in
I'm
the
popping it in the
chat?
chat right
Yeah.
now.
and also the website, so people can look at that. We will send out a information on that as well for anybody who wants that to reach out to Ability Path afterwards. I just want to make sure there's no other questions. Wait.
There was one asking, do we train employer staff? Formally, no. This is something that I have worked with like HR departments to really try to get. I think it's something that is absolutely needed for working with disabilities across the board. HR is well aware of the buzzwords to use and, you know, the questions to ask. That does not filter down to the managers and the staff, unfortunately. I have not been allowed into a company to do an employee training to work with people with disabilities. However, that being said, if the person allows us to disclose needs at a minimum, then what we do is we train natural supports. So perhaps they're at the grocery store and there's a main checker and maybe a main bagger that knows the person's, you know, some of the person's issues and needs. What we do is we say, hey, Johnny, you know, has these things and our coaching is ending or we're going down to 20%. So we really need you to look out for this and this and this. You know, is there any additional, are there questions or trainings that you might have? We might be able to send them something in one of our Relias trainings, but we do kind of do that natural smaller circle around the person, but not as a whole with the company, which I would love to do.
So there's another question. What do you need to have the DOR valid? How do you need to have basically the DOR validate your case? My son has been through 3 programs and he is stable and wants to work. Oops, where happened to it? It went, oh, here it is. He is diagnosed with extreme anxiety and depression disorder, but does not have disability status right now. We find this very confusing. So how is there a workaround or
Yeah.
a doctor letter of some kind, or I don't know. I remember with the DOR, my son actually had
Yeah.
one of the
So just, yeah,
patients.
anxiety is not a disability, y'all, just so you know. I have a service dog and I was not allowed to board on, and I have severe anxiety to the point where I will drop to my knees and stop breathing, or at least that's what it feels like. So I literally couldn't board my plane. My husband had to come get me. PTSD is the key buzzword in terms of like that disability because it triggers anxiety attacks. I don't know. I would find a doctor who is willing to listen. I would be the squeaky wheel. I would bring up your adult child's symptoms and needs. I would try to find a counselor at the Department of Rehab who's willing and open. Um, I don't know. I would just say keep pushing the envelope.
I'm just going to put the chat address in back again. Somebody was asking for it. Okay, here another question. Ever have remote work from home, or did you ever do anything with remote work from home or off-site work where somebody can not be physically in a place? Do you help them remotely
Yeah,
get
we
a job?
so we have, yes and no. We've helped them find remote work, but there does have to be some sort of in-person connection. An employer generally would not accommodate everything being done online. They want to do either an in-person interview or, you know, we need to so yes and no. Like we do have some internships that we're working with right now. We have an individual who has extreme cerebral palsy, and so his speech is really, really hard to understand. His physically doesn't move, but the guy's brilliant. And it took us almost 2.5 years to find him a position. And he's doing some sort of graphic design or something behind the scenes for a company on an internship. And it's all being done from home. So we have had 2 or 3 more recently, especially after COVID, where people are willing to allow for work from home. So yes, we have been successful in finding some remote work. We've also been unsuccessful. We had an individual who hired somebody who they wanted to do their accounting stuff kind of on the side and from home, and it ended up being relatively shady and didn't work. And so we have to just be really careful about how we manage those types of situations. But my general rule is there's nothing that I won't try Like I want to give it the old heave ho and the old effort. And I'm very transparent. Like if it's too difficult or it's just not something that's working or we're getting a lot of pushback, I'm pretty open with the people that I support about how it's going and is it working and isn't it working and are they flexible in particular areas. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's probably it's a little bit of a challenge to make that work just because you are dealing remote and there is one thing, Angela, that we did not talk about, and we don't have time to do that here, but some of that can happen through the ticket to work program.
Yes. We are not, that's actually another
Program, yeah.
that I'm wanting to open up. I haven't done it yet. The other thing I didn't mention is we have a program that we're starting March 1st. It's called Immersion. What we're finding is that we have a lot of clients who are coming to us who have the desire to work, but are just not ready. We're closing a lot of cases. They're just their social skills aren't what they need to be. The soft skills aren't what they need. The reality of working, 3 to 5 hours a day isn't what it needs to be. So we have this kind of 4-month program that we've designed that works with a lot of these soft skills combined with independent living skills, combined with like some sensory stuff that really people don't train on. We have a lot of individuals on the spectrum who don't know really how to ask for accommodations. So we've got this program that we're starting that will really work with individuals on these skills to get them ready for work, and then would be able to transfer them over into our employment services department.
Yeah, and I don't honestly remember how we did all this, but I believe we went into the DOR through the Ticket to Work program,
Okay.
which because one of the things that you brought up was that you can only work so many hours and get
Correct.
paid only so much because
Right.
the monthly pay right now it's like $1,690, which
Yeah,
it sounds like a lot, but it's not if you
it's
start
not.
hours
No,
and minimum wage in our state is over $16 an hour.
correct.
So with Ticket to Work, I don't want to get into the details of it, but basically they give you 18 months to see if you can continually work. And you have no restrictions on how many hours you work or how much you get paid. So it's a trial run that offers you an opportunity at a job as well. So I have to look up the way we did it, but I just remember that we came through that process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are ways to get to you, but the key is you have to prove that you're disabled.
Correct. Yeah. And Ticket to Work, just in a nutshell, is a program that is set. It's designed to get people off of Social Security in the long run, right?
Mhm.
You have this time period where you're allowed to make as much as you possibly can over this time period, and then after that, they start to work toward getting you off benefits. And the employment network, or the EN, who works with you actually receives like incremental kind of bonuses or payment as you start coming off of Social Security. So that's what that's designed for.
Right, right. Which is for people in our community is not going to be a reality, but
Right.
it's another foot in the door.
Another foot in. Yeah. With
Yeah,
some time with
yeah,
it.
with
Yeah.
time with it, and you don't lose your
Correct.
Medicare or Medi-Cal or anything like
Correct.
that at the same time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. So are there any more questions? Or Jim brought up a good point in the chat. He said that Maria Shriver set up a program similar, I guess, to Ability Path, and it still exists today. Is that right, Jim? Did I understand that correctly? Okay. Um, and another one of our community members said that there was a reality TV show called Born This Way with Down syndrome, interesting, following folks with their jobs and life as such.
Yeah, Maria Shriver set up the program in the state capitol, and it still exists. And many of the people are still working there in the mailroom, all over the building. They're just all over the place. So, and it's been very successful.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
fantastic.
God bless Maria Shriver.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think, we're living in a day and age where, disability is more, I think, pronounced. I mean, there's a lot more cases of autism, a lot more cases of mental health. So I think it's starting to be something that people are gaining more knowledge of. I mean, we have shows, we have models now that have disabilities. And so I think I think it still carries the taboo that it did years ago for some folks, but I also think it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. And so there's still tolerance of it, which is not what we want to deal with, right? Who wants to be tolerated, right? Everybody wants to be accepted. But I think we're moving toward more of the acceptance and the understanding as people gain knowledge. And that's like my whole thing is I want people to understand and gain knowledge because with knowledge comes power, right? And change. And so those are the things that I push for when it comes to even if an employer won't hire somebody or isn't ready to hire somebody, if I've educated them in just a little bit on how to work with an individual with disabilities, then I'm successful that day.
And I think in a lot of situations as well, there are some businesses that are just willing to be more open with that. I mean, I see it at the store where my son is at. There's another young boy, man, not man, young teen there who has on the autistic spectrum. I've seen it at Lenardi's. They're
Yeah.
also very accommodating. Trader Joe's exceptionally accommodating. So there's some easier pathways to get in, assuming the person would be interested in that particular kind of a position.
Mhm. And I have individuals who are engineers who are making 3 times the money that I have that we've supported to get the jobs and to keep the jobs. So, Joe was one of the people that supported the engineer, and we have no idea what he's doing with all of his stuff in the background, but the social stuff and the follow through and the organization, like those are things that they needed help with, and those are the kind of things that we can assist with.
And that's, I think, more important than the job, even because that's what you're hoping for your loved one is to get them out into the community, be able to grow, be more social. I mean, these illnesses, they block it all out, and that's what I've seen. I've seen my son become really social for somebody with these challenges, and honestly, you just wouldn't know. I mean, he has his moments. Of course, he has them, and
Of course.
everybody has their moments. So, but he's more confident in how he can manage this just by having a job.
Yeah.
So, thank you
And
for
of course, and I
yeah.
think too, just knowing that there's support, knowing you're not in this alone, right? I think often we feel so alone. People just don't understand what we're going through as a person with a disability. But when you know that somebody understands and they're willing to listen and they're willing to support, um, then your life grows. You grow, right? You're included now in a form or a way that wasn't there before. And that makes a huge difference. I think especially, I don't want to say especially in the mental health field, but often people don't feel like they're cared about. They feel like they're all alone in their journey. And when you have people who understand or maybe don't understand but want to, that makes a difference as well.
Yeah, and when your team treats everybody just like anybody else, that just adds to the confidence and the thought in their mind that I can do this. And then once it happens, all of a sudden that person feels they have purpose. And that's so
Absolutely.
important. So
Yeah.
important. So on that note, I don't see any other questions. And Jim, did you have anything any thoughts, or did you want to add anything? I see you up there in my corner of my screen.
I'm just popping my email also into the chat. So if anybody has questions, they can email me.
Oh, very good.
Well, they keep talking about it in Sacramento, but they got to walk the walk instead of talk the talk. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I hear you're setting up these barriers. Maybe you could talk to some legislator about changing that to make it streamlined. So I would, there's things you could do, just
Those
don't get.
barriers that nobody understands.
Oh, it's so frustrating. Yeah.
Right. We have good legislators. Gail Pellerin is the chair of the assembly. Mental Health Caucus. Maybe we ought to have her on this show sometime. And David, of course. So we have a strong delegation here. Just happens to be in Santa Clara County, and they're more than willing to help out.
Yeah,
And thank you very much for all you do. It's really wonderful hearing that. Being a stepdad of somebody who has schizophrenia and is developmentally disabled. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. It's been my life's mission and I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you everybody tonight for joining us, and have a good evening. We'll see you later.
Okay, somebody said, can we say the address one more time?
Oh, okay.
Physical address is 2248 North First Street in San Jose.
All right. Thank
Evelyn,
you
was
so
that-
much,
was that
Angela.
good?
Thank you, Maureen.
You're
for
very
facilitating.
welcome.
Yeah.
It was
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Please reach out for any follow-up questions. I would say if anybody has any comments, concerns, or complaints, send them my way.
Absolutely.
Well, again, thank you. And tell hi to Joanne for me.
I
please.
will. I will.
All
All
right.
right. Have a
you.
great one. Ciao.
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone, for joining us tonight.